special guest, Scarlett Trillia, and today we're talking about retrogrades.
Retrogrades.
Retrogrades. So let's jump right in. WTF is a retrograde. We'll talk about it astronomically, and then we'll talk about it astrologically. So we always start, well, we don't always, but from time to time, we start with factual reality of what is in the sky. So a retrograde, everybody gets mimi around the retrogrades, right? So, but what is it actually? And a retrograde is when a planet appears to move backward in the sky from the Earth's perspective due to differences in orbital speed. Different planets move at different speed, and it's an optical illusion caused by the Earth lapping another planet for inner planets like Mercury, or the outer planet moving more slowly as the Earth speeds past it. Mercury famously goes retrograde 3 to 4 times a year, while Saturn goes retrograde about once annually.
However, the one reason being, other than the fact that Mercury is very, very close and Saturn is very, very far away relatively, is that a retrograde period for Mercury lasts a mere 3 weeks. A retrograde period for Saturn lasts for almost half of the year. So that's why it only happens once. Yeah, don't think you're getting away with just a little bit of Saturn retrograde or anything.
So, what does that mean astrologically? A retrograde is a time to reevaluate, to reflect, to review, and to revise. And I like to think about how the inner planets, like Mercury, impact really personal mind and communication, whereas the outer planets, like Saturn, really they have a personal effect, but they're going to affect structural and collective and karmic themes more than those inner planets.
Especially Saturn. Especially Saturn retrograde in Pisces.
Which is what is happening.
Which is what is happening right now.
So let's break down what is happening in the sky right now.
Well, we have Saturn retrograde in Pisces.
We do, and we have Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Do we want to talk about Mercury retrograde in Cancer or Saturn retrograde in Pisces first?
Well, as a note, we have a little exchange happening right now where Cancer's ruler, the moon, is in Mercury's house, Gemini, just today at the timing of this podcast. And Mercury is retrograde in the Cancer's house. So they've swapped houses. And we've talked about housing swaps in the past, so I thought I would just mention that that's happening.
Thank you for pointing that out. This is called Parivartana Yoga. And those of you who are postural yogas may recognize the Sanskrit name Jatara Parivartana, which Jatara Parivartanasana. Of course you will. Why wouldn't you?
Of course
this
you
is
will.
when, right? Absolutely. This is when you recline on your back and you do a twist. Like both knees over to one side or one knee over to the other side. These are all called Jatara. Jatara means stomach. Pari means to Jatara Parivartana. Parivartana means to twist or to revolve, and then asana. So it is a stomach revolving posture. That would be a twist, right? And so Parivartana doesn't have the Jatara. Remember, Jatara means stomach, but this is a twisting yoga where two planets exchange places in the sky and they take residence. They're doing a housing swap.
Yeah. And of course, when you twist in a posture, you twist to each side.
Exactly.
You swap sides. And so this is only a temporary thing that's happening. Although
So one day housing exchange, housing swap, but
it will happen
Mercury
again.
will stay.
Yeah, and it will happen again in another few days when the moon reaches into Virgo. And this isn't the focus of the podcast, but it's just interesting to note that because a swap can have a kind of a nullifying effect at times, or it basically, especially if there's a debilitation or an exaltation, it can kind of neutralize that energy. In the case
Mhm.
of a retrograde, I don't know exactly what it means, but it's interesting that this is happening
It may be
right now.
Nisha Banga, which means it's a cancellation
Yeah,
of the retrograde energy when there's Parivartana yoga. I will need to investigate more, but it's surely possible that that happens.
yeah.
At any rate, we are just talking about retrogrades in general. What the heck are they? And then talking about these retrogrades in particular, because of course the Mercury retrograde, let's start with that, will last longer than this Parivartana yoga with the moon. Wow, we're getting technical. So, Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Cancer, of course, is in part about emotion and emotional flow and sensitization. And so, you know, Mercury retrograde creates a re examination of how we speak from emotional intelligence and intuition and a gut knowing. Now, Mercury doesn't particularly like to be in these underwater places. It's not the worst place for Mercury to be placed in Cancer, but it's not naturally that happy to be in Cancer. Mercury wants to analyze, it wants to talk, it doesn't necessarily really want to feel.
No. And coming back to that exchange, when the housing swap is over, the resistance to Mercury be having to be underwater will be more felt. We will
That's
notice
right.
an intensification, and of course the retrograde. I wanted to say, in case anyone is having trouble visualizing the astronomy of a retrograde, it's exactly like when you are seated on a train or even a long bus, but a train is a perfect example. And another train, either you start to move or another train is moving, and you can't tell which one is moving, and it looks like they're going the wrong direction. That is the optical illusion that we're experiencing, and it's very disorienting. Out of the corner of
Yes.
your eye, you're like, which way is who going? That's kind of the
Yes.
feeling. Which way is what thing moving and why?
Am
I
I
thought,
moving
yeah,
backwards? Is it moving
yeah.
forward?
I
Absolutely. Yeah.
thought we were leaving the station, but actually we're standing still and another train is going the other way than my body was anticipating moving. And so it can it can feel really
It's really
unsettling.
a good way to think about
Yeah.
this and a really good somatic like experience of this. And
Yeah.
so because a retrograde creates this kind of slingshot energy, this can be miscommunication as famous in Mercury retrograde and, computer glitches, travel glitches, all these things that are ruled over by Mercury don't go as smoothly as they would without the retrograde because Mercury is being held back, or the energy of Mercury is being held back. So, with this Cancerian energy, we could get miscommunications in families or family wounds or stuff with the mama, stuff with your mother. Also, ancestral grief and energy could come at this time. I'm about to tomorrow in Mercury retrograde, even those of us who study Jyotish time these things perfectly. I'm going to take a trip to my ancestral homeland. So that's kind of perfect Mercury retrograde in Cancer journey.
Perfect. And my
Yeah.
example of that, so fourth house is also the natural house, we said, of mother and also of home. And I live with a housemate. He just left to travel for 3 weeks. And I've just begun like a huge upheaval of the house. So
Yes.
kind of like a deep cleaning, reorganizing,
Yeah.
repotting plants, all of the
Yeah.
right? Retrograde, redo,
Yeah.
even like re-washing things that are clean but not
Uh-huh.
clean enough. The shower curtain is soaking in the bathtub because it needs to be,
Ooh, yum.
like washed before it gets washed.
And that's
It's like
water
that.
energy,
Yeah.
Cancer, Cancer wants us to wash
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So
Which we have been taking note just as as a side note, but it's also relevant. It was with the new moon. Was it the new moon or the full moon that we predicted a lot of floods and flooding? And we've been watching this flooding that hasn't really even been in the news that much. That is like massive flooding throughout the United States.
massive flooding. What's really interesting is I am also seeing fake news about flooding.
Whoa. Mercury retrograde in Cancer. And so, words carry water right now. And what we say could either nourish or it could flood. And so, as a remedy for the Mercury retrograde in Cancer, we want to be really careful with our words, I think.
Somebody asked me yesterday, obviously I'm not in the United States, but I grew up there. And somebody who grew up in various nations within the African continent, who also lives in London, asked me, do Americans fall in love?
It's a really good question.
That's a really good question. I was like, wow, that is a very big question that I will take some time to consider. And the reason for asking, and the reason why I'm mentioning it on the podcast, is we in the English language don't have very many words to describe love as an emotion. And
Correct.
so we tend to pack an array of expectations into a single word and feel like if
And
somebody
therefore concept, single word, and therefore concept.
single concept. So we have this feeling like, does this person love me? It's like, well, they might love you in all of these ways, but not every single one of them. And so if you only have one word to describe it, it may feel incomplete. And this person speaks like 5 or 6 different languages. And so it was actually a conversation about how do we express our most complex human emotions in Western English language, Western culture versus in tribal culture, even in other European languages. We had a bunch of language examples. So kind of perfect for this placement.
Perfect.
And
Yeah,
it's like
perfect for
an
this placement.
it's
And
like an
also,
unpacked, yeah.
the Cancer holds this place of the left petal of the third eye, but in our subtle body, there is a relationship with the left petal of the third eye and the heart. And we can see this in the moon exalting in Taurus, which is the cosmic heart chakra. So it's that feminine, for lack of a better word, aspect of the heart and the connection between the heart and the feeling state of the left petal of the third eye. Wow, that was really a cosmic.
Well, and think about it, not everybody is watching or can see this, but heart chakra, right? I'm placing my
Yeah.
left hand on my heart. You can do
Yeah.
this if you're listening. Heart chakra, I'm going to skip for a second all the way up to my third eye and touch it.
Yeah.
What's in the middle is the throat chakra,
Right.
ruled over by Mercury. And so it's
Yep.
like, how does communication help us move from feelings into thoughts, or thoughts into feelings, or insights, intuition in
Yep.
the third eye? It can only be expressed through the throat in order to understand the heart. You could go in a lot of you can go a lot of
Absolutely.
directions
And
with that
right now,
concept. Yeah.
and right now there's this big block around the throat
Yeah.
because of the retrograde.
It's like screaming underwater,
It's like screaming underwater or singing underwater.
like a mermaid, which is
Like a
kind of
mermaid.
awesome. Ooh. But mermaids are kind of emotional. Like,
They're not just emotional like sirens. They're not just emotional. They do all sorts of things in those
they do all
myths.
sorts
You know,
of
like
things.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking about Odysseus like tying himself to the mast and having his crew stuff their ears with
Wax.
with
Or was it
wax so
wax?
that he
Yeah.
can hear, or rags, I think it's
Yeah.
wax, so that he can hear the siren song without being pulled under by all the sirens.
Yeah. And I think that the takeaway for the collective of that metaphor in this context is, don't let emotional conversations drown you.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, do whatever you want, but I'm not going to tell you what to do, but be aware of the fact that words could feel, I mean, there could be depth, but there could also be like a drowning in emotion if you're not careful with the way that you interpret things that you're both hearing and saying,
Yeah.
in communication exchange. Also, wherever Mercury is going retrograde, just be aware of the fact that it will slow things down, or it will give you the perception that things are being slowed down when it comes to communication, transportation, travel logistics,
Yep.
documents getting signed and sent, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And issues around with displacement around home and memory and belonging, emotional safety could resurface or could come back. I don't think Mercury retrograde in Cancer, you're necessarily going to have all of your exes calling back, but it's like your mother figures are coming back
Yeah.
to give you information. So, want to talk about Saturn retrograde in Pisces?
Yes, please.
All right.
So, if you have been listening along, you will recall a podcast conversation that we had several months ago now about Saturn entering into Pisces.
Oh, before we talk about that, I have a music pick for
Mercury
Mercury retrograde in Cancer.
Okay, let's do it.
Ready? Tell me lies.
Oh, okay. Mac,
Right? Fleetwood Mac, Little Lies,
Sweet Little Les.
Sweet
Yeah.
Little Lies. I think it's just called Little Lies, but we know the song.
But the song they
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
get yeah. Okay,
yeah.
okay. Do we need a fashion pick and a movie pick?
We kind of need a fashion pick.
I mean, the
and,
movie pick
I've
has
got a
to
movie
be-
pick also.
Yeah. What's the movie? Splash? I mean, it's got to be, right?
Oh, Splash. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking The Social Network,
Ooh, okay.
which is like for both retrograde, Mercury retrograde and Cancer in particular. But yeah, it's got to be Splash.
It's got to be Splash. I mean, we kind
gotta
of
be
we kind of queued that up, and it just came to mind. If you haven't seen Splash, now is your chance. That's a great one.
But I also think
Or the Odyssey.
fashion.
Yeah. You
Oh,
could
the
read
Odyssey, exactly.
I mean, you could. That's not a movie, but you could read the book. Is it a movie?
I don't think
don't know.
so.
Never
I
seen
don't
it,
know.
but it's-
Probably
yeah.
like probably like in the 1960s or 70s or something.
Totally.
Like, with a lot of tunics and short swords. But I think that the fashion for Mercury retrograde is like a 90s throwback kind of like butterfly clips and chokers and slip dresses feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, that teen vibe, but also could be a bit dark.
Yeah. You know what also just flashed through my mind is when you've been swimming. So this is more particular to women, but men have a version of this experience. Is when you've been swimming and you're wearing a two-piece swimsuit, and then you put your clothes on over it while it's wet, and there's
And
and so there's like
and you-
wet patches on your breasts and where the
And your
strings
butt.
are and your butt.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of the
Uh-huh.
vibe. Yeah. And then
Uh-huh.
it'll dry out eventually, but it's all a little weird. It's a little awkward.
It's super weird. Because it's all wet. I was also thinking Sade, Smooth Operator, is a Mercury retrograde in Cancer kind of energy to me because it's shadowy, it's underwater. I mean, Mercury retrograde in Cancer has a bit of a spy vibe to me.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
double agent.
Double agent. Okay. Yeah, there could be some aspect of like social media stalking.
Yes.
Yes.
Social network, social media stalking, double agent, because it's underwater and you can't trust Mercury retrograde in Cancer.
Oh. Okay. Good.
You can't
good to
trust
know.
what they're going to say, I think.
Or you can't hear it.
Or you can't hear it.
You can't trust your interpretation of what they said. It may not
Exactly.
necessarily mean that a person is being untrustworthy, but you may not want to trust your emotional reaction that you're having to what you heard.
Exactly.
It could be either, but I would say, we'll give the people some credit. Don't get too
I like
paranoid.
that.
Yeah, don't get it may not be their fault. You may just you may be having a feeling that's not accurate to what you heard. Okay, so Saturn retrograde. Saturn
So,
retrogrades always last a very long time. And this is one contributor to the reason why Saturn stays in a single sign for so long. Because Saturn moves really slowly forward, and then it moves really slowly backwards, and then it moves really slowly forward again. And it takes about 2.5 years to make its way through just a 130-degree space in the sky, in the zodiac. And we talked about it may be, actually, speaking of retrograde, it might be time to re-listen to the podcast about Saturn entering Pisces.
that's right.
This is what you do during a long kind of heavyweight retrograde like a Saturn one, is you reevaluate. You might want to go back and reread the journal entries that you've written over the last 4 to 6 months, for example. You may want to recap. It's Pisces is the 12th house. It's the natural 12th house. It's the end of the cycle. And Saturn retrograding through this space is like, if you have karmic ties or attachments or unresolved things that you cannot carry with you beyond this life, this is your, excuse my language, your last fucking chance to
That's right.
to let go of those things before we move forward again, because we need to move forward unencumbered. And Saturn is going to retrograde all the way to the very earliest degrees of this sign, where it was the first time it passed through that space in direct conjunction with Rahu just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Also
Right.
a big a karma karaka. So
Yeah.
Karma Police is one soundtrack.
Oh, love it. Yes.
That's the Karma
Perfect.
Police. Yeah,
That
yeah.
it is, that
Yeah,
is the song
that's the
for
song.
this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's the song.
And that is the song. Finished.
Yeah,
Done.
done.
And this is a revisiting of spiritual contracts and boundaries, and looking at, like, have we escaped? Like, is there escapism, or have we actually healed? And there could be delays or a reevaluation of creative vision. This is like Pisces stuff, sacred work. And it's a reevaluation or a revisiting of, are we building the future on a dream or on a delusion? Like, are we deluded, or are we visionary? Or are we like, is there an aspect of delusion, escapism, dream reality happening? And karmic patterns from, the past lifetimes or this lifetime, come floating back at us on the tide. And they're really asking us to integrate. It's interesting, both of these retrogrades are happening in the water. Saturn is retrograding in Pisces, the most transpersonal of the watery signs, and Mercury is retrograding in Cancer, the most personal of the watery signs. So we're being asked to be in the space of emotional flow in personal aspects, and then in transpersonal, how do I relate to the collective, or how does the collective relate to me in the transpersonal sense?
And the Saturn retrograde started first, then Mercury kicked in and will turn direct, and then Saturn will continue to be in retrograde for several months. I think that, to the point that you just made, we have these few weeks, and this is actually a slightly longer Mercury retrograde cycle than what we're used to. And there will be the longest eclipse of our lifetimes will also happen during this double retrograde period. And so,
Awesome.
awesome. When you do get those people popping back up, or your personal patterns popping back up with the Mercury retrograde cycle. That's the ex calling whatever the old, family conflict patterns resurfacing, whatever it is that you're experiencing. When you choose to not react in the way that you might feel inclined to because of this kind of water emotionally charged aspect, you if you can operate with awareness at the personal level, you are contributing to the collective ability to move into a new cycle of shared karma. It's almost like the perfect opportunity to witness how, if you have any problem with anything that's going on in the world right now, and you probably do, it would be good if you at least had concerns about the state of the world. If you can't address them in your one-to-one personal interactions right now, then you can't continue to maintain a strong opinion about them, the external.
Yes,
It's
that's right.
like, this is the chance to say, hey, look, I'm back on my bullshit. How or not. I'm not back on my bullshit, but if I am, how could I continue to allow the weight of the world to sit heavy on my shoulders when I can't even not respond to my ex? I did get
That's
some
exactly right.
I got some ex texts coming through already with, yeah, and I did respond, but they're not but it's not antagonistic or anything, but it's really like it makes you it's really interesting, like, okay, here's that person again, or that pattern again. How have I grown since the last interaction? Or like, how do I feel different about something that seems to be a repeating cycle, and what am I doing to move beyond it? And no matter what, you'll get some opportunity to reflect and experience this, and then put that in the context of, how do I want all the people to be treating all the people? How do I want
Absolutely.
how do I want all of us to be in relationship with the natural world, or in our collective environment that we live in, or beyond?
Absolutely. So we have somebody on with us named Z Shorts. Hello, Z Shorts. And they ask, you guys reading chats? And they say, I subscribed. And I said hi to them. So welcome, Z Shorts, Z dash Shorts.
What
We
is
are
this, shorts?
glad that you are here with us.
Oh, are we reading charts? Is maybe what this person
I
means.
don't know. Or perhaps are you reading the chats? That's I first read it as charts, but there's Mercury retrograde, so I don't know.
I think
Um,
we're doing both. We did read the chat. We received the chat. We have both
uh-huh.
read it. And we could do a chart reading. For an individual, I have mixed feelings about doing that on air.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it on air. But we're looking at today's chart. Of course, we do personalized chart readings outside of the podcast format, online and in person. I have a Pisces Saturn retrograde film pick.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know if you've seen it, Black Swan.
Okay. Yeah, I have not actually
Ballet,
seen
ballet
that movie.
discipline and psychosis and
Yeah,
dream world and like fever dreams.
that's a great one. And I think I've already elected this film in another context, but I actually just took a screenshot of the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Right. Uh-huh. It's a perfect one for
It's
Mercury
it's been
and Saturn
relevant in a
retrograde.
few contexts, but let me find what the screenshot actually says. I also took a screenshot of a woman walking upstairs underwater. But can you see this?
Yes.
And he's
Yep.
saying, I'm erasing you and I'm happy. And he's crying as he says it. That's the vibe. That's totally the vibe. I'm erasing you and I'm happy, but I'm not. So, yeah.
How about fashion for Saturn retrograde in Pisces?
This is where you repair old clothes and give them a new lease on life, because Saturn doesn't really like to throw things away. But it's an opportunity to like patch things, maybe hem things, definitely like recycled fashion energy. Could also be clearing out clothing from
Uh-huh.
from your closet and maybe putting something on that you haven't worn in a long time and making a
Hmm.
decision either to bring it to the front of the wardrobe or get rid of it completely. That's not really fashion, but I mean, it's part of the
It's part of the
yeah.
fashion deal. I think also like hidden accessories or accessories with hidden meaning, like keys and sacred symbols and metal of any type, just wearing metal medallions. Saturn has a very metal, not heavy metal, but just metal as a substance kind of feel to it because of the hardness of Saturn and the discipline of Saturn.
This could also look like black clothing that has been washed so many times that it's kind of
Yes.
faded out. Kind of like this
Yes.
t-shirt, actually,
Yes.
where it's like
Yeah.
softened and faded, and
Yeah.
that actually gives it a sort of vintage appeal.
Yes.
Like
Exactly.
almost threadbare black t-shirt. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
Excellent.
Do we have
So
did we
shall we
say a music pick? We did.
Karma Police?
Oh, all right. Of course. I mean, sorry,
We
it's
need
already done.
nothing
Yeah,
else.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
already
yeah.
done. Yeah, 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 it's
It's
already
done
done.
and we've movied it and we've
Yeah.
fashioned it. So shall we myth? Shall we myth?
Ooh, yeah. Myth it up.
All right. So once upon a time, long, long ago, and far, far away, and simultaneously, right here and now, and inside of each of us, when the cosmos was still young and just trembling with the hum of its own becoming, and time was fresh, there was no separation between speech and truth. So Vak, the goddess of sacred speech, flowed effortlessly through the tongues of all the rishis and all the seers. She was sound as power. And we should note that in the Genesis stories of many, many cultures, sound and the creation of the universe are linked. So she lived, this goddess, in breath and mantra and in the spaces between thought and word. She wasn't born, she emerged from silence. And so the Devas wanted a conduit for divine knowledge on earth, and they turned to Sarasvati, who is the goddess of wisdom and music and language. And they asked her to send Vaka down to the mortal planes to let the humans partake in the thread of speech so that dharma or cosmic order could be upheld through song and story and mantra. So Sarasvati consented and she released Vaka into the world, speech and sound and truth into the world. And it was very beautiful. Mantras came forth from the tongues of sages, and poetry could literally heal wounds, and language and truth danced in this rhythm. But mortals, humans doing what they do, began to twist speech and they learned to lie and flatter and to manipulate. And they weaponized words for power and profit and they hollowed out mantras and just started repeating them without devotion. And they started using sacred syllables and language to control rather than to liberate. And so Vaka cried out and she left their tongues and returned back to Sarasvati. And she said, they don't deserve me. They don't understand the cost of speech that is unmoored from the heart when speech and the heart get separated. So Sarasvati became filled with sorrow and rage, and she withdrew the power of sacred speech from the world. And in her place, she left behind a shadow, Jvalavaka, the burning tongue. And so this hidden flame lived in every word that was spoken without awareness. And anyone who spoke with arrogance or deception or cruelty could taste its sting. And the relationships from those words scorched, and their words fell like ash, and gossip curdled, and praise would rot. And even truth that was spoken without compassion could wound like a blade. And so the sages got really alarmed because speech was decaying and thought was becoming very confusing. And so they undertook great tapasya, or spiritual austerity, and they fasted and they chanted and they sat in silence for many, many years. And so finally Sarasvati appeared once more, and she said, I will allow Vak to return, but only those who understand speech, who anchor their words in silence and truth and compassion. And so since that time, Vaka has become this sacred trust. And it is awakened, the power of speech is awakened by sadhana, it's purified by silence, and it's strengthened by restraint. And this is the mantric current beyond all wisdom, and it has to be approached with great humility, or otherwise the burning tongue returns, silently branding every lie and every word and every truth that's used to harm. So we have to be very careful during the Mercury retrograde with the Saturn retrograde, that we're careful what we say, and we're careful why we say it, and we let the words emerge from this deep well of speech, so that we aren't scorched by our own fire, the fire of Vaka. So that is our myth.
That is a great myth.
Thank you.
Thank you. We just got a question in the chat. What are we talking about?
Exactly.
Exactly. And do we accept donations? Of course we accept donations. Are they
Yep.
on? How do
I believe
we?
so, yes.
I think they are, and definitely on Spotify. I think you can, right?
Definitely on Buzzsprout,
On Buzzsprout. Okay.
which sends our podcast out into the ethers. I don't believe that Spotify has a method for donation directly in Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but in
Oh, okay.
Buzzsprout,
Buzzsprout.
they
Okay.
are, yeah. So
What are we
there it
talking
is.
about? We're talking about whatever we want on this podcast, but
It's
we're
a
talking.
Napoleon Dynamite moment. It's like whatever we want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this course of tradition and study encapsulates everything,
Everything.
everything.
So
So
we talk about everything.
everything. We have a big eclipse coming up next week. I think that will be the topic of our
It's
next.
next week, huh?
Yeah.
Yay,
It's
with that new moon. Okay, coming on up on Thursday with the new moon in Pushya.
No, it will be in. Where's the sun?
I have new moon in Pushya on Thursday coming up, unless it's coming with the full moon in Shravana.
Okay, I think it's gonna be Pushya then.
Yeah, the new moon is in Pushya.
Okay, so it'll
Fun
be
times coming up.
yeah, it'll be right afterward. Yeah, we'll talk
Okay.
about that. We'll do our
Yeah.
we'll do our charting and we'll talk about that. But yeah.
And also right now, Mars is within 5 degrees of the nodes. So that's a really tight formation with Mars and Ketu. They're 1 degree away from each other right now. That is this very turbulent energy that we are experiencing on the global stage right now.
Yeah,
And we also predicted, we love it, that there's this king toppling energy, which is certainly happening right now.
I mean, if the eclipse doesn't have a role to play in that, I would be surprised.
I as well.
Again, I mean, these retrogrades, particularly the Saturn one that we were just talking about, and particularly in the context of communications, and we're talking about, global news sources and things at that level. It's a little bit of like a final pass of the karma
Exactly.
for a whole big long cycle. Yeah.
So Sun, Moon in Pushya, new moon July 24th. Mercury retrograde sitting right there with them, but in the next star sign over in Ashlesha. Ketu is sitting in Purva Falguni, Rahu in Purva Bhadrapada. Mars sitting right next to Ketu, 2 degrees away. So this is a big stack up in Cancer and Leo happening in the next few days.
Yeah, and I think that the eclipse is actually on the 2nd.
On the 2nd of August.
Yeah, but the math is not mathing for me on how that
The math
could
isn't
be.
mathing for me either, so I'm gonna have to investigate more
That
about
could
that
be, maybe
eclipse.
that's part of the fake news that is circulating.
Yeah, I don't think we
I
have
don't think
eclipse
that
coming. I don't
I
have
don't
it in
think
any
that
of my
could be
calendars.
interesting. So why do I have that on? Well, whatever. We will. This is exactly. I'm not ashamed to be recording this because this is exactly what a Mercury retrograde will do. Is it will create
100%.
it will create this kind of confusion. So when it comes to fact checking, and now we're getting to a point, we've recorded enough episodes where you can really start to link them together. And we've talked about how the current transit of Rahu through Aquarius and its relationship with AI advancements in the technology space, and
Yes.
that relationship between entering a phase where it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to tell what is real and what is AI generated content.
Right.
We're getting to that, and Mercury retrograde will dredge some of that up. Like I said, I've seen a lot of real footage of flooding around the world and fake footage. For why would you post fake footage of floods? But it's happening. Why would you post? I've seen like 10 posts about an eclipse. And I was like, okay, but I didn't really have that I didn't have that on my chart, but these are the kinds of things. And so, yeah, do a little double take. Do a little double take.
No,
Yeah.
no eclipse on
Yeah, the math.
2025. There's an eclipse on, yeah, that's why we look at the chart because we have to have Sun and Moon together with Rahu or Ketu involved to have an eclipse mathematically.
There cannot be an eclipse in between.
August 2nd, 2027, we'll have an eclipse.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
there it is. 2
Yeah.
years in the future from now.
Yep. Okay, so
Yeah.
we got one more question that we'll answer.
Yeah.
Yes, we are at different levels. Both of us practice, but are not denoted specifically. I'm not certainly considered to be a Vaida or medical practitioner
Vaidya.
of Vaidya,
Yeah.
excuse me, of Ayurveda.
That's all right. Yeah.
But are you a Vaidya
Yes.
technically? Yes.
Yeah.
So one Vaidya and one counselor of that tradition. Yes.
Yeah, we do the Ayurveda. And we talk about Ayurveda on this podcast
Yeah.
quite frequently. Yeah,
We can
especially
switch.
in relationship to Jyotish. And our last episode, we talked about Ayurveda quite a lot.
We did indeed.
By the way, I put out that last episode like a tiny bit late. Like, I don't know what late is. I'm on my own timeline. Like, I usually drop them on Tuesday or Wednesday. It came out on Thursday. And I had some people getting impatient for their podcast,
Ooh,
which
and
I
did-
like.
Did you say to them, Mercury retrograde?
I did.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we have a
right.
very special episode coming to you next week, so be sure to tune in.
It won't be about an eclipse because there isn't one. But maybe it will be. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? All right, everyone go listen to Radiohead's Karma Police and mind your business.
Exactly. Bye.
All right, bye.